Across our portfolio, we have about $500 million of Bitcoin, and we're making the case, despite the market's volatility, that with this continued printing of fiat currency, particularly the U.S. dollar, there's been over 469 billion U.S. dollars printed by the Fed this year, with month ending May 30th, and so May 31st. So for us, that Bitcoin exposure, we think will offer a long-term hedge despite the volatility. And I will point out that Bitcoin is still up on the year, so it's actually been a very good performer this year, up at the higher end of the range of performance related to 2021.
You're not looking at any other traditional inflation hedges? Of course, you mentioned what you're doing with growth stocks, but what about on the commodity side of things, the physical commodity side of things around gold and other precious metals?
Yeah, and so that's a really good question. And if you had asked me that question in 2009, 10, and 11, we had a very large position in gold. But we actually like the upside characteristics and are willing to accept the volatility in Bitcoin, as Bitcoin, in our opinion, is in the early adoption stage. And we think the generation coming up behind us, sort of my adult children, if you will, they're going to be accepting Bitcoin as part of that standard. It will be, in our opinion, a replacement for gold. And so where it's trading right now, it's about 6%, 6.5% of gold's market cap. And so for us, we like Bitcoin versus gold. And that's just the innovation of where value storage is going in the future.
All right, we're just showing some of the price action when it comes to Bitcoin, sitting around the 33,000 level. Do you see a recovery? When do you see a recovery? How much of a recovery do you see? And do you blame the pullback that we've seen over the last month or so entirely on Elon Musk?
Well, I think he contributed to it. Certainly, some of the things that he was doing probably contributed to it and scared people. But no, I think this is just broader about early adoption. I would look at something like Amazon in its nascent era in and around 2000. If you went back to Amazon's IPO back in 1997, if you held that stock, $10,000 of that stock on its IPO is now worth $24 million. But you would have subjected yourself to 8 periods of time where the stock dropped at least 50% as it was scaling pursuant to Metcalfe's law. And so I think this trajectory and this level of volatility is something you have to accept if you believe Bitcoin's longer term story. Right now, we have about 125 million users globally. Our research department at SkyBridge thinks that you will have at least 1 billion users by 2025. And if you remember Professor Metcalfe's statements about measuring value, you can actually measure the value in the network and the scalability of that network. Think of the phone system back in the early 1900s as people started to buy those phones and connect to each other. And that's sort of what's happening to Bitcoin right now. And so the saturation level is very small. It's less than 2% of the world's population. And so I'm very confident that we'll be sitting here a year or two from now and talking about this volatility, but also being amazed at the upward trajectory of Bitcoin over the next 24 months.